Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Alice.
Hey now.
Greg, what are you doing here?
Hey, what do you mean? Allison,
Where'd you come from, Greg?
I came from the world of Childish, and I just want to make sure that your listeners know that you're just as wonderful on the other podcast you do.
What if they don't have kids?
Don't need them. You don't need them. A lot of our listeners actually tell us they don't have kids. We talk about sex.
We talk about all sorts of dirty stuff,
Yeah.
but also parenting stuff.
Yeah, so.
Check out Childish. New episodes every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Childish, oh shit, maybe I should have tried it next.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her the good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to a very exciting episode of Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. My guest today is WWE star Alexa Bliss. She is a 5-time women's world champion, and I think I messed that up, and a former women's tag team champion. Clearly, I don't exactly know what I'm talking about, but I know that it's very, very cool and impressive. And also, she hosts the podcast Uncool with Alexa Bliss. Hello, welcome. Did I mess up your champion titles?
Hello. No, actually, the Women's Championship, that is definitely what it's called. We have a Raw and a SmackDown Women's Championship. But you did pretty good, especially for, being new at announcing them. And I will say the theme song is very catchy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I like it.
So Alexa Bliss, that is your ring name. But what do you go by in real life?
Lexi. In real life. It's so my real name's Alexis. My ring name's Alexa. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty similar. There's not too far off.
Right. Okay. So should I just call you Lexi?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want.
So, question for you. I know that when you debuted, you were sort of like a Tinkerbell character and you would throw glitter, right? And then the glitter got outlawed because it got on everyone. And then at some point, Alexa Bliss, the character, kind of morphed into like a master manipulator who has a Napoleon complex, who's like the heel, right? And again, please, everyone recognize I'm using wrestling terms, which are a bit unfamiliar to me, but I'm trying to catch up. So what was that experience like, changing your character?
So it was actually very nerve-wracking to change my character when I first started with WWE, because they always tell us to be your personality just turned up by 1,000. Mm-hmm. So I've always been a big Disney fan, always been, big Tinkerbell fan, anything that's, whimsical, Disney, cartoon, that is me. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I'm just going to pretty much be a pixie person. And I came out, I blew glitter, I wore tutus, I was having a blast. It was literally my personality turned up by 1,000. And then WWE, the writing team in NXT were like, yeah, we can't relate to that. We can't write for that. That's not relatable. And we need to find something else. And so then they told me I was going to be a bad guy. And I panicked because I was just like, oh no, like, what do I do? I don't even know where to start, because if someone basically tells you like, this is your personality and this is who you are, that's not going to work. You gotta change that. And so you're just like,
right.
Oh my gosh. So I kind of just started acting like every girl I went to high school with. Oh. And that's kind of how the persona started and blossomed into the character it is today.
How much time passed in between your last performance as the Tinkerbell kind of character and your first performance as the new one? Maybe
a week.
Oh, wow. So really fast.
About a week to figure it out. Yeah. That's how everything works in WWE. Everything is fly by the moment, very fast. We have shows weekly. So, sometimes it changes minute by minute, and you have to be adaptable and ready to change everything. And I remember this specific day because I had blonde hair with blue on the bottom of my hair. And I walk into work, and this was actually, no, this change happened overnight because we had an NXT takeover, which was our versions of like pay-per-views in NXT, which is at the time was our developmental program before it became a third touring brand. So I was in NXT, which was our developmental program. And this was a Wednesday or Tuesday night. I had turned into a bad guy. And it was at the end of the show. It was a very 30-second, I pushed someone off the top rope. That just shows I turned into a bad guy. That ended around 10 p.m. Now, we had to be at the venue the next day at 11 a.m. I walk in, and they were like, "Where's your red hair?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, my what?" Like, "Where's your red hair?" And I was like, "No one told me to have red hair." And they're like, "Well, you have 3.5 hours to figure out how to get red hair because the good guy has blue hair. The bad guy needs to have red hair." And so I had to call my extension lady because I wear extensions, whatever. I had to call her and be like, "Hey, I need red hair in like the next 3 hours." So she comes to the venue, and my hair was all blonde, brand new extensions, just got them put in. They were very expensive. I was so heartbroken. She had to chop the blue, just completely off, dip dye red into my hair. And then on top of that, not only did I have to look different, I had to act different. So it was like, what do I do? And this was maybe a 14-hour turnaround.
Wow.
Of personality change.
Because given that they are like just your personality turned up, 1,000%. And when they said that your first character wasn't relatable, they didn't know how to write for that. Did you take that personally?
No. Oh my gosh. No, I never took any of it personally because, I know it's a show, it's entertainment, and what I thought would work sometimes doesn't, and sometimes, what's crazy is a lot of times you circle back to what your original idea was. And when I became a good guy again, I found that I was doing, the foo-foo-y stuff again. And it's just so funny that, everything comes full circle. It's just, it wasn't that it wasn't relatable, and it just wasn't relatable for that time. Right. It wasn't, as a new character, there was no dimension to it because I was just happy all the time. There's nowhere to go with that. There's no conflict because that's what our whole business is. It's antagonist, protagonist, conflict resolution. And when someone's constantly happy all the time and throwing glitter around and wearing a tutu, there's no cares in the world. So you can't write for that, And so, it was completely understandable. And I'm so glad that happened because if I were to still be trying to do that, I would have I would have not succeeded at all. So I'm very lucky that they said they couldn't write for that and couldn't, relate to it. Everything happens for a reason, I believe, and that worked out for the very best.
So sounds like you went to high school with a lot of unfriendly women.
Oh, 100%.
Or girls,
that was the thing too. That was another reason why, I wanted to do the type of podcast that I wanted to do because when I grew up, I started school very young. I was right at the cusp of, the age, you could start school at turning 6 or start school turning 5. And I had just turned 4 when I started kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
So I was always very young for my grade. And so when the girls, I was literally from Mean Girls. When the girls were I actually have a picture of this. When all the girls were dressed in, the little like scandalous outfits, the foo-foo-y skirts with the cleavage. Right. I was a scary vampire. I was never at the maturity levels of the other girls in my grade. So I was the target for a lot of, bullying or, harassment and, and I wasn't the girl that the guys went for. I was the girl that was the guys' best friends. And I listened to them talk about the popular girls to me. And I wore a Vote for Pedro shirt once a week. I was just not the ideal image of what, from middle school all the way up to my freshman year. I was definitely the target for the mean girls to have fun with, for sure.
And then did something change your freshman year?
I moved schools. So I ended up getting jumped and moved schools my freshman year.
Wait, jumped like a bunch of girls tried to beat you up?
Yeah. So that happened. I was walking down the hallway with my boyfriend at the time. His name was Quinn. We're walking down the hall and this girl, she was trying to, portray that she was just like super tough and her friends, like she was trying to get in with this group of girls and they were like, well, you better beat someone up, kind of a thing. And so I'm walking down the hall, minding my own business. I had like I was not the fighting type at all. I remember I had this like Hollister jeans skirt on, and I had my hair pinned up on one side with a little, I called it the Britney Spears fluff because it was a little fluffy like clip that looked like a pink fluffy ball.
Yeah. Like they also made pens, and those were on top of the pens too.
Yes, 100%. That was in my hair, on my shoes, like, because it was from,
Hit Me Baby one more time or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I'm pretty sure I got it from Limited Too and still wore it. Was the issue there, because I was already a freshman in high school. I should not be wearing accessories from Limited Too, and I totally was. But she comes up and hits me in the back of the head.
Oh my God.
So punches me in the back of the head. I don't see out of my right eye because, when someone hits that area, sometimes you can, like, your eye shuts and, everything gets all small in there. But so then she jumps me, and I actually still have a scar right here on my elbow. And it is an acrylic nail. I don't know if you could see that. It is a scar.
Yeah, I
from an
see a dark
acrylic
spot.
nail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was an acrylic fingernail that just got in there, dug in there. And, I was an easy target. It was what it was. And it was right before Christmas break. So I got an extra long Christmas break. It was like 2 weeks because we both got suspended for it. But I got an extra long Christmas break. So I was like, whatever. And then I ended up switching schools.
Because of that?
Yeah, because of that. Because it was just after that, I just, once people knew they could mess with me at that point, it became, it was easier I was a target for more people. So I ended up switching schools. But in that meantime, my parents got me in self-defense classes, and I started kickboxing. And I grew up athletic my whole life, did gymnastics, cheerleading, softball, kickboxing. And so then when I moved schools, the first person that ever tried to mess with me, I stood up for myself, and I was like, no, that's not how this is going to work. And, things were a lot better at my new school, and, it was everyone was so much nicer. So circling back, that's kind of why I established this character to be, the girls that I originally went to school with. And I always find that your best inspiration and best motivation is everyday life and people every day. So I use a lot of things that people do or say. And if I think it annoys me, I use it because it's probably going to annoy someone else, especially as a bad guy. So it's just fun to get like motivation from people in real life.
Do you feel that your experience in school being bullied, would you call it bullied? Do you feel you were bullied?
To an extent. Yeah. I mean, cause it was just little things all the time. So it wasn't like I'd only gotten physically bullied once, but I had gotten, mentally, picked at a lot.
But that is how girls bully, I think, often.
Yeah. They do the emotional scars.
Right. That's what my question was going to be. Do you feel like that left a lasting impact on you? Because I know in 7th grade, I was never popular, but I went to a small school, and there were like the popular kids and then the unpopular kids. And I was like, I had a firm, solid standing within the unpopular kids. And then all of a sudden this new girl came in, and it was 7th grade, and it felt like a year, but it was really only like for the last month of 7th grade, I just became like the social pariah. I just became the target, and it affected me for so long. I mean, I don't feel like it doesn't affect me anymore, but I remember when I got to college still worrying that like, what if everyone decides they don't like me? Like, what if I lose all my friends? Like for so many years I carried that with me, and it was only a month. Like the scars were so deep from that.
Yeah. I think for me, it was a lot easier to kind of deal with it after I moved, because, my first school that I grew up and went to, everyone was so cliquey. There was, the cheerleaders, which I was a cheerleader at the time, but then there was, the jocks, the theater people, blah, blah, blah. And then when I went to my new school in Hilliard, everyone was just so blended. There was no cliques. Like, I did theater, track, and cheerleading, and everyone hung out together. There was no cliques. There was no, there was one group of girls that they just, believed in their own hype, but everyone was just like, okay, like it wasn't like calm down, it wasn't like a thing. And so I think that's kind of how I got through it a little easier. And, it just having that inclusion and, just everyone just always supporting each other. And it was so weird because it was such a different dynamic at this one school, and they were 15 minutes apart. So that's what was so crazy about it. It's just the way people treated each other was just so different. And yeah, it affected me for sure. But I think it's like with that, you know, that insecurity and emotional, you know, scars, I guess, that you carry with that. I focused that onto, you know, I did bodybuilding and after college, and then I got into WWE, and I just focused it, instead of socially, I focused it career wise. And I think that's what that's what happens. Sometimes you take those emotional things and you focus it in a healthy way.
Is the WWE, like, socially, what's that like?
It's like if you were, you know, when like Thanksgiving, when all the family comes over and everyone's together and it's just loud and people are laughing, but then some people like get sick of each other. And then it's like Thanksgiving at your parents' house 300 days a year. We're all a big dysfunctional family, but we all love each other. I mean, obviously, when you see someone every day for 300 years or 300 days, there's going to be, it feels like years sometimes, it's going to be, you know, there's going to be a little bickering and arguing. But then at the end of the day, we're all family and we're all going for the same goal. And we all just want to have a good product. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. You know, some of my closest friends come from work, and then it's, what's nice about it too is the days that we are, you know, home, we don't have to see everyone from work, you know, so it's nice. It's a really healthy balance, and it's always so much fun because, you know, sometimes you're in, you know, the ring with your best friend and you are having matches against your best friend. And then you guys, you know, have the match and then talk about it after and, you know, give each other feedback. And it's a lot of fun.
I imagine you've been home for this whole lockdown, right?
Yes. So I've been home during COVID, but we still film every week. We film in Orlando, which I live in Orlando, so it works.
And so how does that work, the filming?
So we film at the Amway Center every week. We have two shows. Raw films on Mondays, SmackDown films on Fridays. And, you know, we quarantine as much as we can, but we do COVID testing 1 to 2 times a week, depending on what show you're on. And once, you know, if you're negative, obviously you can come in. And so we COVID test the day before television, and we have to self-quarantine until television. So there's no risk of us, you know, somehow contracting COVID in any way, shape, or form. And then when we're there, we have to wear masks the whole time, and until right before you go out and perform. And, you know, and they have people cleaning everything 24/7, and just anywhere you go, someone wipes it right down. And so it's been very nice. And it's been nice it's kind of been nice to be home, because normally we travel 300 days a year almost. And so it's been nice to be home. And like, I finally decorated my office. I finally, you know, hung out with my animals. I got 4 dogs and a pig. You know, I got to hang out with them, and it's been fun.
Oh yeah, I need to ask you about Larry Steve, right? That's your pig?
Larry Steve, yes.
What kind of pig is Larry? What's his personality like? How big is he?
He is a 200-pound Vietnamese potbelly pig. I got him when he was 4 pounds, and he is now turning 4 years old, and is 200 pounds and is a grumpy old man. If there's any way to describe him, he wakes up every morning. He looks for food. He finds said food and then goes back outside, hangs out. He lives in the house. He has his own room. He's very spoiled, and he likes belly rubs.
Is he bigger than you expected him to be?
No, when I got Larry, I saw his parents, because I got him from a pig farm. So I saw his parents and, you know, the other pigs around. And so I knew how big he was going to get. I just didn't know how bossy they would be. He runs the household, and he knows he does. And that's the worst part about it.
Is he friends with the dogs?
He used to be. So he used to be friends with Frankie. I have a little Chiweenie named Frankie, and he's like he's maybe 10 pounds, and they grew up together. So I got them a month apart, and they grew up together. He used to lay down, and Frankie would lay on top of him, and they would just sleep like that all day. And it was the cutest thing ever. And then once he got older and the dogs, you know, got more personality, and I just got my boyfriend got me an English bulldog for my birthday. And the puppy energy, Larry does not like.
Oh, yeah.
He does not like that puppy energy, and he just gets so annoyed. But other than that, they coexist pretty well.
My brother has a pig, and he is like obsessed with his pig. He also has a dog, and he's obsessed with his dog, but like the pig obsession, like there's a calendar called, like, what is it called? Hunks and Hogs or something. And he posed in this calendar with his pig.
Oh my gosh. That's
I feel like it's a whole
amazing.
lifestyle.
It really is. It really is. I mean, so Larry is very bougie in the fact that I tried making him a mud pit about 3 months ago. I made him a little mud pit because my outside has like a little garden area that the owners that had the house before me made, and they just never finished it. So it's just dirt. So I was like, this is great. Larry's going to love this. Put water in there. I throw carrots in there. He loves carrots. All he eats is carrots. And he did not want any part of it. He stuck his toe in, would grab a carrot very so slightly, and then wipe his feet. And so I was just like, are you serious right now? Like, this pig does not like dirt, does not like mud.
Right. I've heard that they're actually very clean.
Yeah, he's very clean. And if he like goes out and roots and digs his nose in the dirt, he will rinse his face off in a water bowl before coming inside. He's very smart. He's very bougie. He's a talent nerd.
That's so sweet. Who watches them when you go on tour?
So my aunt also lives here, and she takes care of the animals when I'm gone. And then my parents live about 8 houses down.
I watched
everyone's here.
Oh, that's so nice. I watched the WWE video where your parents were interviewed.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't get over how young your mom looks. I know that she was young when she had you.
Yeah, she was young when she had me. So I always say I went to high school with my parents, because I kind of did. My parents, I was born, I believe, going into my dad's senior year, and then my mom had just ended her senior year. And my mom's only 2 months older than my dad, but my dad never lets her live it down. And yeah, so after my mom had me, she waited a year and then graduated with my dad's class. And yeah, so they had me very, very young, and they're still together. And it's a very rare story, but they're amazing, and, very, very supportive of what I do, and they love it.
Were you a wrestling fan growing up?
My family was huge wrestling fans growing up. I watched it. I liked watching, Trish Stratus, Rey Mysterio, and I watched it every time I was at my grandmother's house. My grandma is a diehard WWE fan. Diehard. You cannot pull her away from the TV when WWE is on. And I never expected to become a WWE wrestler by any means. But once I saw the opportunity came about, I knew I wanted to try out for it. Just because I thought it'd be something awesome and fun. And, I didn't think anything would come of it. I sent in a video online from WWE.com, and I was like, put a video as to why I thought I should be a WWE superstar, and submitted that, somehow got a tryout from that, and somehow got signed from that, and been with the company for almost 8 years now.
What about it appealed to you?
I love the athleticism and the drama. I love the fact that, it's like an athletic soap opera. I love the acting part of it. It's my favorite, and the athleticism, and it's a lot of fun. And, our women are portrayed as strong, independent, just awesome, and butt kickers. And it just always appealed to me.
I know that you had a pretty severe eating disorder, right?
Yes.
And then you got into bodybuilding as like a way to, because you knew you had to put on weight.
Yes.
Was it anorexia?
Yeah. So I had anorexia, and I had that for a long while. I actually had that for quite a few years. It started in high school, my senior year, maybe my junior, senior year. And I ended up hospitalized from that because I ended up losing like 30 pounds in, a few weeks, and got very unhealthy.
5'1" for people who are trying to do the math. You're tiny.
Yes. So, I was at the time, I was maybe 80 pounds and I was hospitalized because my heart rate was 28 when
my
I was at the
God.
hospital. Yeah, it was not good. It was not a good situation. And, I had to get treatment for that. And the first round of treatment for that, I was in the hospital for 2 to 3 months. And then I went back to school and was doing really well. And then I went to college where I cheered, and my cheer coach at the time had also had an eating disorder. And I had told her that, I can't be doing these things that you ask us to do. For example, we had to sign in to do cardio twice a day or do bod pods where it measures our body fat percentage. And I would say, I can't do this. And, I found myself going back into my tendencies and,
Because of the pressure to do those things?
Because of the pressure to do those things. And, I was a flyer at the time, which is the person that gets tossed in the air. And, she would say, well, if you can be the flyer, you'd be the first freshman to be on the nationals team in so many years. And it became very, very scary. And once she saw, I think because, she had an eating disorder as well before. And so she had seen it. And once she saw me, dropping weight dramatically and looking a little scary again, I got back down to like 80 pounds. She would tell me, maybe after practice, go get like a Blizzard or something. And she was trying to help. But, the worst thing you could ever tell someone in the midst of an eating disorder is, hey, just eat. And that's what she was doing. And I remember it was after a football game. I had my uniform still on. It was after a football game and I'm sitting there and everyone's packing up their stuff. And I'm just like shaking my head no. And I just look up at everyone and I say, hey guys, this has been real. This has been a lot of fun, but I got to go home. And that night I packed up as much of my stuff out of my, as my stuff out of my apartment as I could get, threw it in my car and drove home from college and was admitted to the hospital the next day. But this time it was different this time because this time I wanted to get help. The first time in high school, the help was forced upon me and I didn't see my eating disorder. I didn't see that I was sick. But this time I saw it definitely. And, I always say you never want to help. People don't get help until they actually want to help themselves. People can offer help. People can try to force help on people, but no one's going to get better until they want to get better themselves. And so this time was different because I admitted myself and I had to go through another 3 months of treatment in hospital because every time, my eating disorder would come back. It wasn't the mental side of it that I couldn't recover from. It was the physical. So my heart rate would always drop and my heart wouldn't come back, or my organ functions would fall and not steady and not level out. And so for me, I know that my body would never survive another eating disorder because of how hard it hits my body when it happens.
When you, and I hope this question is not triggering. If it is, don't answer it.
Oh, no.
When you were in the midst of it, I'm curious what it felt like. Like if you, did it feel like I know this behavior is not good, is self-destructive, but I'm compelled to do it? Like I can't stop, like an addiction?
100%. It was definitely an addiction and definitely a fear. For me, it was a literal physical fear of food, because your brain, goes into overdrive and the serotonin in your brain drops, everything, goes all haywire. And not only did I, know it was an addiction, I was physically, mentally afraid of food. If I were to eat something, I would freak out. And then naturally my legs would start, moving and twitching because I thought I had to burn that calorie off. And it was very, it's so crazy to think back and think I actually thought that, and it's because, it was such an unhealthy thing to go through mentally. And yeah, I would 100% say it was an addiction, but it was also a very, very severe fear.
But you don't suffer this anymore.
No, not at all. Not anymore. I had, a burger and french fries earlier, but it took a lot to get there though. It took a lot. Even when I first signed with WWE, I was very strict on my diet, and I did bodybuilding. And then, it just took me up to like maybe 5 years ago to realize my bodybuilding diet and what I was doing to my body in bodybuilding was another form of eating disorder. you know, and I know some people are like, oh no, like people could get backlash. Whatever for saying that. 100% is you're regimenting your food, you're regimenting your workout, you are obsessing over numbers, you're obsessing over your weight. And for me, it was another form of an eating disorder. It helped me get healthy and eat healthy foods, but I was doing it in a non-healthy mental way.
Right.
So, you know, constantly tracking and, you know, there's one thing about being healthy, but then there's another thing of being obsessive. And that's when the OCD part of it comes in, and it's obsessive compulsive and addiction. So up till even when I first started WWE, I was very strict on my diet, right? I would work out at 5 a.m., then go train in the ring for 3 hours and then lift with NXT for an hour and a half after that. And I realized after that, you know, sorry.
That's okay. Is that the puppy?
Yeah. My boyfriend walked out and the puppy loves him and has separation anxiety from.
Oh.
And so my coach even told me, my coach was like, hey, you need to gain weight because everything is going to hurt. You know, you're going to get thrown around in the ring and it's going to hurt unless you get some cushion on you. And after that, you know, I gained weight in a healthy way, and I've never looked back, never had a single issue with any other food, any other thing. And you would think too, being in a certain spotlight on TV, on social media, that the last thing I would want to do is be out there in a shorts and a half top and, you know, not be in my best physical shape I've ever been. But, you know, it's like, you know, I'm healthy now and it's a lot better. And now I know that the stuff doesn't hurt as much. It still hurts, but not nearly as much.
Like, what are the things that you can't do because it might trigger it?
I don't think anything now. I've been, you know,
like, do you weigh yourself?
I do weigh myself. I weigh myself maybe once every 2 weeks. And that's just because, you know, I started weighing myself because there was, you know, I started enjoying quarantine a little too much, and I put on my wrestling gear and it started like, you know, the seams when they pop a little, I started hearing the pop, pop, pop. And I was like, ooh, okay. So we're going to have to loaded cheese fries, not tonight. And so, you know, I do in a healthy way. Like I maybe weigh myself once every 2 weeks. And that's just to, you know, keep track of, you know, I go based on how I feel opposed to how I weigh or how I look.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched like a top 10 clips of you, and there's some move you did where, like, are you double jointed? Can your arm pop out of socket?
Yes. So I'm double jointed in both my elbows, and I knew it would come in handy one day. I just didn't know how.
How did you discover that?
My whole life, you know, I was a gymnast my whole life, and, you know, you have to hit certain positions. And every time I would put my arms up, my teachers would tell me to bend my arms. And it's because you want your arms to go straight up, and mine would just naturally go out and just overextend. So I've been aware of it my whole life. You know, they always tell me, like, keep your arms like, don't do that, it's gross. Because it looks gross. And
yeah, it looks painful, but it's not.
No, not at all. I don't even notice it. And in fact, like, if I don't stretch it, it's more painful.
I see. So it just feels like a natural movement of your arm.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like
natural.
Got it.
No. My arm, it's like if you straightened your arm where it stops, mine just stops a little farther.
What a nice feather in your cap to be able to do that.
That's what I said. I was like, I knew it would pay off one day. I just didn't know how. And so when the opportunity came about, I was like, I have an idea. Yes. And that's when we did it. And it got a great reaction. And I was like, I knew it would pay off one day.
It's very cool. I need to tell you guys about BetterHelp. If you think you may be depressed or you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious, BetterHelp offers licensed online counselors who are trained to listen and to help. Talk with your counselor in a private online environment at your convenience. BetterHelp counselors have expertise in a broad range of areas, including anxiety, grief, depression, difficulty sleeping, LGBT matters, anger, family conflicts, and more. You just fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs and then get matched with your counselor in under 24 hours. You can easily schedule secure video or phone sessions with your therapist, plus exchange unlimited messages. Everything is confidential. And if for any reason you're unhappy with your counselor, you can request the new one at any time at no additional charge. I think that is such an important feature because especially right now, people might be thinking, well, I'm nervous about starting up, virtual therapy with someone new. What if it's not not the right fit. I don't want to be committed. You're not. You can change as many times as you want. They will get you the right person. You will find the right match. BetterHelp is an affordable option, and our listeners get 10% off your first month with the discount code BESTFRIEND. Get started today at BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/bestfriend. Talk to a therapist online and get help. So, what made you decide you wanted to do a podcast?
Well, the podcast came about because WWE was dabbling in the podcast world. You know, we have a few other superstars that have podcasts and they're doing really well and they're really fun to listen to. And on the show, on WWE, I also have a talk show that's within the program called Moment of Bliss. And basically I just, bring on superstars, provoke them a little bit, and we talk about their storylines and help drive the storyline. So I think they were like, so who on the roster likes to talk a lot? And they're like, Lexi likes to talk a lot. So they came out to me and they're like, hey, would you want to do a podcast? And I was like, yeah, sure. About what? And they're like, we don't know. That's what you have to go up with. And it was over a year in the making because, we started last October, maybe. We did the first test episode and it was going to be character driven with WWE. And then it was going to be a game version, and then it turned into Between Two Ferns, and then it turned into what it is today, which is Uncool. And when we did the test episodes, we had a couple superstars sit down and talk to us about things they about themselves growing up, who they are, and who they were before they became the WWE superstar that we know them as today. And we found that was the most fun conversation to have because everyone that is, famous or a celebrity or a WWE superstar has had that we've seen so far has had a pretty funny teens and preteen years. So we were like, why don't we just focus on that? Let's talk about the most awkward and cringing things that happened to them growing up and how it's affected them today as these, because we see one of my guests, my first guest was Mike the Miz Mizanin, and he is this A-lister, Hollywood is his persona, and he's very cool and, he's just in your face. And then it's funny to see, growing up, he was the complete opposite of that. Mm-hmm. And he shared his most embarrassing stories of getting food poisoning on a first date with a girl.
Oh God.
And blowing up the entire bathroom with vomit and doo-doo. So it was very funny. And then, I told the team, I was like, what if we expand, beyond WWE? Like, I would love to interview the people that I looked up to as a teen or I looked up to as a child. And so I was able to interview Lance Bass, who was my childhood crush, and, profess my love to him. I was like, I told you when I was 10 and I was at the NSYNC concert, I told you I loved you and you didn't say it back. And he was like, well, he's like, are you sure I didn't give you a wink or something? I was like, no, you 100% no sold me and you ignored me. And I will remember that till the day I die. And then I got to interview next week. My interview with Taylor Hanson airs, and he was my first ever crush.
Oh, wow.
And how, I grew up looking like a Hanson brother. So, we had that in common and just little things. And it's been a lot of fun. And hearing some of the stories that, these people that you idolized or look up to, you find out that they had these embarrassing stories, and it makes it so relatable. And it's just been so fun. And, I had my boyfriend on the podcast, and I found out stories about him that I had never heard, but they are extremely hilarious. And, it makes you like these people even more. And it's been a lot of fun. And I've interviewed comedians, and, it's been great.
I have to pay you a compliment. I was listening to your episode with your boyfriend, Ryan Cabrera, and you're good at interviewing. Like, you're really good at sort of honing in on specifics and then asking follow-up questions. And I was impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is my first ever go with podcasts. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So did you know were you aware of your boyfriend before you guys started dating, and what did you think of him?
So what I knew about Ryan, I was so out of the loop. So I remember I was at a Tilly's not too long ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was at a is that what it's called? Tilly's? That little skater shop?
I think so.
Yeah, so I was at Tilly's, and On the Way Down came on, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this song. Oh, that's cool. You know, like I download it, whatever. And didn't think anything of it. And I was like, that's the dude that like married Ashley Simpson, right? Like that's how far off I was. I thought they were like married with kids, the whole deal.
Right.
Very out of touch because I don't know that world. And come to find out that was not what happened. And we met because of an online rumor that we were already dating, but we hadn't even met each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So whoever was running his social media, it wasn't him, but whoever was running his social media at the time started just like liking all my tweets for like a week and a half, 2 weeks straight, replying to every one of my tweets. And I even screen capped it and sent it to my friend Kaylin. And I was like, what's this guy's deal? You know what I mean? Like, calm down. You know what I mean? And I was just like, what's his deal? And so WWE fans, they are very passionate people. They know our lives inside and out. And they started these Instagrams. They were like, oh, they must be dating. Brian
Just
Cabrera,
because of the social media
just
behavior?
because of that. Yeah, just because of whoever was running his social media. Because he, like, when I asked him about it, he was like, I genuinely don't even know the password to my Twitter. He does now, but he didn't at the time. And so they liked all my stuff, and people were like, oh my gosh, they must be dating. And he's friends with another WWE superstar, Mike The Miz. And Mike called him and was like, hey, I heard you're tied to Alexa Bliss. And he goes, what's an Alexa Bliss? Because he thought it was a clothing line. And he was like, well, you know, next time you guys are in LA or whatever, I'll introduce you guys. And we come to find out that but we didn't meet through Mike. We met because he was flying to Orlando for a show, and I lived in Orlando, and he was like, oh my God. And we just kept meeting in like different cities, and our schedules kept matching up. And come to find out, we ended up being at a lot of stuff together before we even met. And,
oh, wow.
You know, he had videos of me from WrestleMania on his phone because he was getting videos of Hulk Hogan. I'm like, that's me standing right next to Hulk Hogan. I'm on your phone. And we just never, we'd been 3 people apart before and never met each other.
Oh, that's so
and
funny.
it's so crazy how it all worked out. And then we've been quarantining together since, you know, the test of time, and it's been amazing.
You guys have been together since February, is that right?
I don't even know. We met back in November, and then, I would say that's appropriate timeline.
I know
we just kind of go from when we met.
I know of him. I didn't know the Ashley Simpson stuff until I listened to your podcast, although I should have known that. Like, I feel like everyone knew of him because he lived with the Simpsons, which I didn't know. But I know him because of Audrina and the Hills.
Yeah. I never watched that. I wouldn't have known that one. That's how out of touch I am. I never watched my first experience with reality TV was like watching Jersey Shore. That was my first reality TV. I remember all my friends watched, you know, The Hills and all that stuff, and I was never that person.
But you're into The Bachelorette though, right?
Yeah, we just started the new season of The Bachelorette. And it's crazy. I love all those reality shows. We now, because of COVID and quarantine, we now watch Marrying Millions. We watch 90 Day Fiance, 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days, 90 Day Fiance after the 90 days, 90 Day Fiance. Now what? We watch all those, you know, reality shows. And now we just introduce The Bachelorette again because new season. And we just have a whole just, you know, realm of shows that we just keep watching, and we are addicted.
Do you watch Vanderpump Rules?
I've never seen Vanderpump Rules.
I stopped watching it. I feel like I need to get back into it. But there was a period of time where it was like all I talked about. I would go on other people's podcasts and I would bring the conversation to Vanderpump Rules. It was almost as if I was on the show, given how much I was promoting it.
Yeah.
All right. I have some questions that listeners sent in. I take questions on Patreon and on Twitter, patreon.com/Allison Rosen. I'm on there. You get bonus episodes, you get behind the scenes content, you get videos. Although this video, my Monday show videos are on YouTube. So if you're hearing this and you want to be able to watch it, which why wouldn't you? YouTube.com/Allison Rosen is where you go for that. But I also take questions on Twitter, and we have a little song. Let me find it.
When we ask, they send them in. They're wondering how you have been. So thanks so much for answering these questions from our fans.
All right. So on Patreon, 2 huge wrestling fans wrote in, and they both have multiple questions. Sarah Miller says, many women wrestlers today have a different look than what seemed to have been the norm for women wrestlers of the Attitude Era. And I don't even know the term Attitude Era. How do you feel this has affected women in wrestling and wrestling fans who are women?
With our women's evolution, things definitely changed with how our women were presented and perceived. We back in the Attitude Era, they were called divas, and now we're called, women superstars. So there's definitely a difference in shift, but what we wear, we choose what we wear. I choose, I choose to have my butt cheeks out a little bit, whatever. But it's so, because here's the real thing. You get a wedgie anyway. So if you already start with the wedgie, it's not going anywhere. If you're constantly picking your shorts out of your butt,
Right.
and I don't show too much, just enough that where I don't have to pick wedgies because I know my shorts are going to get there anyway. But yeah, what we wear is, our choice. We choose our outfits, we choose our gear, and it has to be approved. And, I would say, I wasn't around in the Attitude Era. And
What does that mean?
So the Attitude Era was an era in WWE in the 90s and 2000s. And it's kind of where all the rules were kind of thrown out the window. And it was very edgy, very different. And now it was a PG-13 era, and now we are PG era.
Okay.
So basically that's the difference. PG-13, now we're PG. So now we dress PG opposed to PG-13. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of really the way to describe it, I would say.
Was it just visually different? Like the PG-13 versus PG, did it affect the storylines and the language, or is that just outfits?
The storylines and language definitely affected. We don't use curse words nearly as much as was used in the Attitude Era. And some of the, we don't have intergender matches anymore. We have mixed matches, which is, so intergender matches is guy versus girl, but now we have guys and girls teaming up together. And so, you're seen as equal. And, it's been, I actually had a tag team partner in the mixed match challenge. He is 7 foot tall, and having a 5 foot tall person being with a 7 foot tall person was very entertaining and a lot of fun. But yeah, I would just say, the only difference is, it's definitely more family friendly and kid friendly now opposed to the Attitude Era.
Okay. Here's a hard-hitting question. WWE has come, this is from Sarah Miller as well. WWE has come under fire in recent years for its stance on its wrestlers as independent contractors. Is this still the case? Do you ever feel like there is pressure to be in the ring, even if you are hurt or feeling ill?
WWE takes care of us 100%. We all are in a contract, and anything that happens inside the ring, WWE takes care of. Our health is 100% priority. Our health and safety is 100% priority in the company. And, unfortunately, we're living in the middle of a cancel culture where people try to start rumors and, make their assumptions of things. And, there's never been a time where I've ever felt uncomfortable about being in the ring or have ever felt forced of being in the ring. Even when I was injured, I had concussions, and Vince said, all right, well, we're going to send you to the best specialists there are. And he did. And I saw concussion specialists, and they went above and beyond to take care of me. And, I know everyone feels that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sarah Miller also says, there have been many fun storylines over the years. Of course, there have been many offensive ones as well. Are y'all allowed to say no to storylines that do not sit well with you?
We have as much creative input now than ever. I feel like, I 2 years ago, I did a body shaming storyline with Nia Jax. Nia is 6 foot tall and she is a Samoan girl and she is muscular. She is, a bigger frame than I am. And we did a body shaming angle. And that was our choice because we wanted to show that bullies never win. And I was the one bullying her. And we are both very big on body positivity. And we wanted to show that these things really happen in life. We've both gone through, body image issues. I've gone through eating disorders. And so when we were presented with this opportunity to do this bullying story and angle, we 100% jumped on it. We're like, this is a real issue. A lot of times real issues aren't talked about. And we're going to act out this real issue and show that when she takes the title from me at WrestleMania, that bullies never win. And that was our whole goal. And that is our favorite storyline we've ever done. And we used real examples, real things. And because we felt passionate about that. And that's kind of how our storylines work.
I love that. Tyler Furland says, wow, this is huge. Ask her how she feels about working with Bray and if she has any input on where her current character is headed. Just let her know that my girlfriend and I are both big fans of her and her work in the ring and outside of the ring against cyberbullying.
Oh, thank you. So I have been having so much fun in my recent time with WWE. I've always wanted to be working alongside a character like Bray. And because he is so good at what he does, he puts so much background research into what he does. And he is the true epitome of what a WWE superstar should be. He is compelling. He is always evolving and changing and being something new and fresh. And to be able to work with someone like that just always gets, your creative juices going. I always feel, you're only as good as the person that you're working with. And if you're working with someone who has a different approach, if you can adapt to that approach, it just makes you a better performer. And, in the ring, out of the ring. And it's been a lot of fun.
I have a question. This is a question from Allison Rosen. Was there a time in wrestling where performers were not open about the fact that it's storylines?
Yeah, there was definitely a point way back when, way back when, to the point where I remember Terry Taylor, who was a WWE superstar. He is now a coach in NXT. He would tell us stories of the road that people would literally throw bottles at our bad guys and would chase them out of the arena and follow their cars. And because people were so invested in the storylines and invested at what we do. And, we've had to say, what we do in the ring is very real, but the outcome is it's scripted. We were telling stories and we had to embrace that approach. Now we keep the storylines as real as we can because we want to keep the audience engaged and captivated in what we're doing. And, obviously some of the stuff that we do, you look at the TV and you're like, come on. But we keep it as real as we can because if we're investing in it, we want the audience to invest in it as well, because what we do is based on crowd interaction and reaction. So there was a time when, the interaction and reaction was a little too real. Mm-hmm. So they had to be like, look, these people are people. They're not, they're not always the characters that they portray on TV. These are actual people that have real lives, and you have to respect that.
Did you watch Glow?
I did watch Glow.
What'd you think of it?
The first season.
What'd you think? How accurate do you feel like it was? And also, what'd you think of it?
I found it very entertaining. I found Glow very entertaining. Accurate, I would say the constant training is very accurate because people don't understand what we really go through. Even when you first start in WWE, we trained and did shows 6 days a week. My hours were 8 a.m. to sometimes 2 a.m.
Oh my God.
And there was 6 days a week, and you were constantly traveling a different city every day. And you would go and train in the ring for 3 hours, lift for an hour and a half, have promo class for an hour and a half to 2 hours after that. and then go to a show. And I think, the constant training and what our bodies go through was accurate. It's just such a different dynamic because Glow is a story based on another wrestling federation from another time. So you can't really compare the two. It's apples and oranges. You can't really, it's a little too different but I found the first season, I found it entertaining for sure.
Muhammad Hussein would like to know, does she plan on becoming a 4-time Raw Women's Champion?
I plan on becoming as many time Raw Women's Champion as I can.
And Nick Wester, PI, would like to know, what's her favorite Disney World or Disneyland attraction?
So my new favorite, because I've always been a fan. I've always rode Space Mountain and was terrified of it every time because it sounds rickety. It's in the dark. It's old, and I always go, I'm never doing that again. And then the next day I'm like, oh, Space Mountain, here we go. I have like a Dory moment. I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. I love Tower of Terror. I love Guardians because the different parks are so different. I will say I love Pirates of the Caribbean in Disney Shanghai. That is hands down the best Pirates of the Caribbean that there is. Because with WWE, we travel so much. I was able to go to all the Disneys except Hong Kong. Haven't been to that one yet. But the new Mickey and Minnie ride that they added in place of the Great Movie Ride at the Chinese Theater is amazing in Hollywood Studios. So cute, so amazing. I haven't ridden the Star Wars one yet, but I'd have to say for now it's the Mickey and Minnie one.
Do they still have Tower of Terror in Florida? Because they don't have it out in at Disneyland or California Adventure anymore.
Yeah, so that was the thing too. So I rode it. I rode Guardians because I always went to Disney World. I didn't start going to Disneyland really until I started dating Ryan, and I'd gone to all the other parks. And Tower of Terror, even in Tokyo, it's different. It's so crazy, but it's Tower of Terror. I didn't want to like Guardians because I was such a diehard Tower of Terror fan. And then I wrote Guardians. I'm like, that's my favorite. It's great. And it's so, yeah, we still have it. We still have a lot of the original stuff. And I think they're doing some updates, but I hope they don't change Tower of Terror because it's so nice to have different flavors, different things.
Yeah. Well, Lexi, it was so nice talking with you. Thank you so much. You guys, if you like what you're hearing, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Allison Rosen and subscribe to this show. Download, rate, review, leave 5-star comments. Or leave 5 stars and leave a comment. I've been doing this for 400 years and I still always stumble over what it is exactly I'm telling you to do. But all the things you can do with a podcast, please do them. Your reviews help out the show so much. And listen to my other podcast, Childish, my parenting-ish podcast that I do with Greg Fitzsimmons. You don't need kids to listen to it. And again, I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/Allison Rosen. I'm on Cameo, cameo.com/Allison Rosen. And Lexi, tell everyone where they should go to follow you and what they should look out for.
So every Tuesday, Uncool releases a new episode. So check out Uncool with Alexa Bliss. You can find me on Instagram on Alexa_Bliss_WWE_ because someone took the screen name that I wanted when I first started the Instagram. And it's a thing. And on Twitter, Alexa Bliss_WWE.
Thank you again so much. It was great talking to you. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Yeah, Allison Rosen is your new best